Thank you everybody for joining today. I apologize, we had a little bit of technical issues here as we were getting started, but we're very excited today to have Mada Seghete with us from Branch Metrics. Mada has been within the pair portfolio for a number of years since the beginning. I'm going to just quickly tell you for 1 minute about pair, and then I'll introduce Mada. So pair started 6 years ago by Mar Hershenson and Pejman Nozad at a Copa Cafe with the goal of helping founders from the ground up. We've been going for 6 years across 3 funds with $300 million under management. And we have had a number of successful companies. A couple of the biggest are DoorDash, Branch, Gusto, and Garden, where we've been involved from very early on. The goal of pair is to help you lay the foundations of a category defining company from the beginning of the journey of 0, where you just have an idea, to 1, where you have product market fit and you're raising an A and beyond. We have an accelerator that is for founders, by founders, where we go very deep with our teams, and it does come with $150,000 in investment. You can apply for the summer batch at pair.vc/accelerator. And there's a pitch night coming up. If you're interested in pitching a startup idea and just getting live feedback from Sequoia, Forerunner, and Pair Partners, that's coming up next week. So you can sign up for that too. What you're seeing today is part of a series of talks, and we're continuing to add more and more to them. So please go online and sign up for future talks and check back for updates. If you have questions during the talk, you can use the Q&A box. And also, even if you don't want to ask a question, you can vote on the questions that are asked, and we'll try to prioritize the ones that many people want to have answers to. With that said, I want to introduce Mada Seghete. Mada is a very special guest for us. She's been in the pair portfolio from very, very early on, and really epitomizes, we think, the work of early stage founders. She was born in Romania, came to the US for University of Cornell, and has a master's from Stanford and an MBA from Stanford too. And we were lucky enough to get introduced to her when she was working on Kindred Prints, which was a mobile photo book printing app, and then over time evolved the company and pivoted, and we've seen her watch and grow into the marketing executive and co-founder of Branch Metrics. So Mada, thank you so much for joining today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. So I have prepared slides because, that's what you do when you're in marketing. So I'm going to talk to you about, first of all, I'll give you a little bit of what we're seeing in the market. And then we'll talk about some things that either I've tried or I've helped other founders try when you have no budget or very, very limited budget. So if there's going to be nothing about optimizing your ad spend, and all about organic virality and other things. So let me share my screen.
And Mada, I didn't get to ask you earlier, but do you like to have me ask questions along the way from the group, or do you want to just go through it and then go to Q&A at the end?
I think I will stop after every section, and let's do questions after every section. So, because the sections are pretty different from each other, and I think people might have specific questions on each section. So I think that would be a better way. And then we'll spend the end on just doing Q&A, if that makes sense. Cool. Okay. So, you already gave my background, so I don't need to give it, but I will say that my one confession, everyone has a vice in life, and the vice that I have that I just cannot get over is mobile games. I spent thousands of dollars on mobile, on games, buying gems and being, the sugar mama for my clans. And now I basically allow myself to play games, but nothing online. So now I play threes on my phone, but I just cannot get over playing mobile games. It's like my form of escaping and calming down. So let's go into, 2020. For many of you who are there, this is by definitely a year of struggle. And what does that mean? We pulled these numbers a few weeks ago, and we're going to continue to look at this, but COVID-19 has greatly impacted many verticals, and this is very focused on mobile. We use branch data across many verticals to look through this, but we are going to see this all over. And we're seeing a lot of drop in things like music, streaming, travel, events, sports, and even things like social commerce, market placement, department stores, in-store payments. E-commerce is hit a little bit less now, but overall, we actually think that these trends are going to continue going down. And people are definitely postponing large purchases. So when we looked in cars, real estate, weddings, those are ones that are hit very hard, and we foresee that this is going to continue going down. So it's not all bad. There are definitely areas that are increasing, right? Apps that have stocks and personal finance are really increasing. News. I was on a call with someone from Twitter, and they were saying, they're seeing so many more users engaging with their platform. Same with food delivery, money transfer, games, hyper-local social networks, even dating, right? The secret behind it is if you split dating into dating apps that are where people are looking for relationships versus hookup apps have actually gone down versus the serious ones have come up. So that's a really interesting. Everyone's looking for connection, right? We're all stuck in our apartments. I'm definitely here in mine. And we're all looking to build relationships with people, to build connections, and we're learning how to do that online, which will change the way we look at the world and interact with others. And this is an opportunity for people for companies to change the way they think of their business and actually take advantage of that. So when I think about business through this time, I've been reading this book, and by reading I mean on my solo walks around Palo Alto I listen to it. But it's called The Infinite Game. So I think when you think about budgets, should we spend money now? Should we not spend money now? I think it is actually important to understand that we are in an infinite game. So there's a book by Simon Sinek, and it's called The Infinite Game. And he talks about this idea that there are two types of games in life. There are finite games, and finite games you have players, and there's a set of rules, and there's a clear winner, right? Like you go and look at the basketball game, there's rules, there's a set of players, and there's someone winning at the end. But there are many infinite games, right? Like relationships could be considered infinite games. There are a set of players, but the players can change. People can come and go. And the really interesting thing about infinite games is there's no way of winning. And business is an infinite game. And if you change your mindset and the way you think about your business, you think about, well, I have a business, I have a mission, and I'm trying to advance that mission. And the only way I can lose is actually dropping out of the game. And the way I'm winning is by making my mission and advancing my mission more. Then when you think about this period, this becomes, this is the time when you conserve resources and you conserve cash to make sure that you stay in the game for when this period is over. And there's probably, like, after every recession, there's an economic boom, and there will be an economic boom after. So this is the time to have more of an infinite mindset. So when it comes to marketing, what does that mean? It means actually conserving cash and thinking about creative ways that you can do marketing with less budget. So the advice in this presentation is extremely tactical. While maybe there are some examples and some things that you can do higher level, I actually went super, super tactical with the things that I'm going to talk about. So, I'm going to talk first, we're going to go through organic channels, and then I'm going to talk about retention, and I'm going to talk about measurement. But most of the presentation will be on the first part, which is organic channels. So you have no budget because, either you have no money left, or what you should be doing is actually saving the money for a rainy day. And this is a rainy day, but it's probably going to get rainier. If you actually focus on organic users, the great news is that they actually do better over time. So Branch is a mobile linking and attribution platform. So we link from ads, and we link from organic channels, and we can measure conversions by acquisition channels. So we look to click to purchase rate, from people coming from ads, emails, smart banners on your own website, and referrals. And, you know, it's no surprise that actually ads performs the least versus or organic things, engaging your existing customers, taking people that land on your website, converting them to an app, or referrals do a lot better. And then we actually also looked at the retention of customers. So we compared people coming from your smart banners with people coming from referrals or user-to-user sharing, and then with ads. And again, it's no surprise, but after the 28-day retention of people coming from ads is much, much lower than people coming from banners on your website or even referrals from other users. So while, you know, while it's harder to do these things, so all the organic stuff that you do, it's not as easy. You don't get the instant gratification of buying a user that now is on your website or inside your app. The effort does pay off because these people are more likely to convert and they're more likely to stay with you for longer. So the first thing that I like talking about is SEO. And, you know, I work for a company that works mostly with mobile apps. And why do I care so much about SEO, right? Or why do I talk about SEO versus ASO? The reason is when you think about, you know, search and how people discover, there's not that much discovery that actually happens inside an app. Most of the inside the App Store. Most of this discovery that happens inside app stores is actually branded. People look for a specific thing, and you know you can buy keywords against your competitors. Versus on the web, it's still fairly democratic, and there is a lot of discovery that happens on the web. So even if you have a mobile app, if you don't, if you're a B2B company, no matter who you are, I really think that SEO is one of the things that you should focus on now, and it will pay off greatly in the long term. So, you know, at Branch, we started work on SEO very early on, and we were very scientific about it. And I'll show to you the method that we used, but it really paid off. You know, there were articles that we wrote with SEO in mind that got us thousands and thousands of new apps integrated just from one article. And even now, as I look through our traffic, so much of like discovery of Branch comes through people searching and landing on our web pages. And that discovery sometimes is smaller apps, sometimes it's actually big customers. So I truly believe that if you are, you know, B2B or you just have a website, focusing on this and then taking people to sign up is important. If you have an app, actually building some web content and then converting those web users into the app is a much better use of your time than focusing on ASO or focusing on install ads. And the really important thing is to be scientific about how you think about this, and I'll show you the way we've done it. I see a question, so I'll pause.
Yeah, do you want to take a question? There was a question which is very I was wondering too, which is what are smart banners?
Yes, we will get to that. We will get to that. I will show you in a second. Okay. Let me first show you how we thought about SEO, and then I will show you the smart banners. Okay, so what do I mean by being the fact that you should be scientific about your methods? So this is our data and the way we've looked at it, and I know it sounds it looks like a lot, but basically the idea is that you look at all the potential keywords that you could have, and there's 3 places where you should look for keywords. One is your own website. So look in Google Trends and figure out where where your search traffic comes from and what are keywords that you're currently ranked for. 2 is competitor keywords. So you can use things like Moz or other tools to actually to get data on your competitor keywords. And then you can actually brainstorm where you want to, we had a brainstorm meeting and we're like, where do we want Branch to rank? And then you actually can pull this data from tools like Moz or SEMrush, like the search volume, the keyword difficulty. The Branch.io rank is something that, this is something that we manually came up with. This is, this is how Branch ranks for these keywords right now. The urgency is something that we came up with manually, and so did the relevance. And then we came up with this formula, which I'll show you later, that for every single keyword had an actual score. And then we took those keywords and we actually came up with potential groupings. And for each groupings, we came up with topics. And each of those topics, depending on what keywords it had, it actually got a ranking. So we then, depending on the score, we came up with the ones in green, and we started like writing those, and those ended up just doing really well and bringing a ton of new traffic to us. So this was basically, you know, how we actually thought about it. And this was a formula. We included relevance, which was something that was manual, average rank, better urgency, and keyword difficulty, into coming up with a formula that we came up with to figure out like what we should write. And then we would have a topic, and we would write and make sure that the page had that specific topic as the actual like name of the page. We included the keywords in the ranking, and that's how we wrote. So instead of like writing things that we thought would do well, we actually were very scientific. And, you know, there were like, for example, we would have probably never write an article about what is an AASA file, which is like an app association file. But we wrote something about it. We explained how Branch can help you with that. And it became, because of like, that was something that came out in our keywords, it actually became one of the articles that drove most of our content. Well, not most, but a lot of traffic to us. And, you know, the question earlier was, what is banners? So if you focus on SEO and you get people to your website, then you can use these are banners. So this idea that a smart banner is a banner that, depending on where someone is coming from or what page they're on, it looks different. So if someone's coming from an email, you show them a really large banner that takes them to the app. But if someone's coming from Google, where they were searching for something, you probably show them a very small banner, because actually Google penalizes you if they see a pop-up banner coming up on your website on pages where you want to actually get search traffic to. But if you have a landing page from an email, you can have a much larger banner. You know, if someone's a returned customer, you can show them a bigger banner, versus someone's on your website for the first time, a small banner. Once they close it, you know, they might never see a banner, or they might not see a banner for 30 days. So this idea that you can customize the banner experience depending on where the user comes from can help you actually be much smarter about the way you convert your current web visitors into app visitors. And this is something that Branch does, and we can help with that. The SEO stuff, we can't help you with that, but hopefully the methodology can help you like actually at least think in that direction. It definitely helped us. And you know, I have a friend, Ethan. We're doing a webinar just around SEO, and he goes and he uses a very similar methodologies for companies like Masterclass or Robinhood, to actually, who are apps. And now if you start searching for stock, for a specific stock, or like all these things about investing, you will start seeing Robinhood content, and he helped create, and then you'll see banners that take people from that content onto the website. I'll stop to see if there are any questions before I go into virality. I see questions. And chat.
A few questions. Do you want me to read them to you, or do you want to read them yourself, Mada?
I think you read them.
I can read them to you, then you can stay focused on your talk. So there's a question about, do your banners or Branch HTML snippets contribute to your own company's SEO ranking?
No, they don't. So we are a linking platform, and we help companies with their own banners. We are just the tool behind their banner. Those links, actually, we give all the SEO juice to the company. None of the Branch links help our SEO, which is actually pretty different than our competitors. And if you go and look at like things like Mize, you'll see that we don't have as many like links, external links, because we make sure that every Branch link doesn't actually point back to us, and our customers get all the SEO juice from that.
Mm-hmm. Somebody asked, can we get the website address, please? And I'm assuming that's Branch's website.
Yeah, and the product is called Journeys. And if you are a small startup, it's actually free. So you can just play with it. You don't have to. Yeah.
Let's see. You mentioned something about some keyword tools. Can you tell us more about them?
Yeah, so my favorite is called SEMrush, but Moz is also a good one. We used a combination of those two. for our analysis. So all this data that you saw there came from one of those two.
Mm-hmm. How did you build out your content team in the earliest days to execute your SEO strategy?
Okay, so we didn't have a content team. I wrote a lot, and my co-founder, our CEO, wrote a bunch.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had this thing where we had one content person, and then I did we did this thing where anyone at Branch could write, but they could only write things from our list. And then if you wrote, you got a T-shirt that said Branch Writer, and we would edit it. We had someone help edit. So we had people from our customer success team write, and like our sales reps wrote. Even now, we don't have a big content team. I have someone doing content, doing video, and a writer. And then someone in product marketing is helping write. I write a lot if you follow me on LinkedIn. So we're writing a lot more, and you'll see Alex, our CEO, still writes. We're trying to get product managers to write. You don't need to build a full content team, but it also, it really depends on your company. Branch is a very heavy technical product, and it's very hard to go and get a contractor and explain what Branch does and get them to write good content. If you're a consumer company, that's a lot easier to grasp. You can actually hire contractors to do this, and I've seen this. So it really depends on how technical your product is. In our case, it's very technical, so it's just hard to get, external people who really understand all the pros and cons, and yeah.
Mm-hmm. We have another question, which is, how did you measure your relevance manually?
Oh, we didn't measure it. The relevance is we entered it. We just were like, well, if you're looking for deep linking, relevance is 100%. If you're looking for like a file association file, like the ASA file, that's not really what Branch does, but it's kind of like relevant. So it's like 50%. If you're looking for virality, for example, Branch kind of helps, but it's like we're not a viral tool. So maybe like 20%. So we just it was just a judgment call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just how you categorize or decide.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, well, if someone's looking for deep linking, it's 100% like I want them to come to Branch because that's what we do. Versus the others are more like loosely associated with what we do. Mm-hmm. So I think you have to like come up with judgment calls on how relevant keywords are. Because if you might find some amazing keywords, but if they're not that relevant to your business, even if you write about it, the type of people who look for that might not be the right people to get to learn about your business.
Mm-hmm. A couple of people asked what you think about influencer marketing as a strategy.
Yeah, I mean, let's go through virality and I'll talk through that because, but just to be clear, the way I think about virality is not influencer marketing, is user to user, and you can actually use Branch to figure out who your influencers are by like who generates links. I honestly don't know that much about real influencer marketers, like going and paying influencers to do marketing for you. That is not my area of expertise. Also, it's not like zero budget because you actually have to pay them. So I would say it doesn't fit into this presentation. But I definitely think it works for people. And I heard it works better during these times. We have customers that use links to actually give influencers and track that, but they have a network of influencers, and they were saying that like, because people are spending so much more time on social media and they're really bored, influencer marketing is taking off a lot more during this time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
let's do one more here, and then we'll let some more like percolate. If people vote on them and a couple rise up, we'll do them later. But one more here is, how long should you expect it to take for SEO to start having effects?
Yeah, so I actually have a good answer to this. It takes about, I would say, 2 to 3 months. And the way, we've done this, we've done a lot of different tests on this. One test was we translated all our content to different languages. And then how long did it take for us to start getting organic on those? It took about 2 to 3 months. And then we started in some of the cases seeing a ton of traffic on those international pages. One way you can fake it and boost that is actually running ads and social ads to specific pages, and you can actually really boost your SEO like pretty fast. If you run ads Google, so Google, when Google looks at SEO, it does look at engagement, and it looks at like visits, but only on Chrome, and only only visits that don't have any kind of like paid tags at the end. So if you do it, you have to make sure that you don't add any like tagging to your link, because then Google will think it's paid. And if there's a way, you should do it. Like I used to do this to like fake it in India. I would like basically spend money to boost the organic virality of my posts. I would do it in India and Indonesia and places where ads were cheap. So I would just do promoted posts on Facebook, where I wouldn't add, like the link would just be a simple link. And I wasn't able to track actually things because I wasn't adding any tags at the end of my link. But it did help. Oh, and they only look at Chrome, so Chrome data. So you should just only run ads on Android, like if you can target Android devices. Yeah.
Fascinating. Why don't we go on to your section on virality? We can always come back to a few more questions later.
Sure. Okay. So virality, my favorite thing in the whole world. You know, if you think about the viral loop, and I made this for mobile, but it works for others. A viral loop is like a user engages, and then they refer, and then they get another user to, you know, to actually engage, and they click on a link, they download the app, they engage the app, they share the app, and then that's a viral loop. So you'll see there's a viral loop at the bottom, and then there's something called a double viral loop, which I think some companies do really well, where a user engages, the user engages in an app, they share, and then when the user that they brought in engages, the user that invited them gets a trigger, and then they engage in the app again. So I think a really good one is Robinhood. They do a really good viral loop where I share a stock with you, and so I invite you to Robinhood, and if you get the free stock and I get the free stock, and what they do is when you get the free stock, by the way, it's a secret, so it's also they use surprise, which I think is really smart. But when you get the stock, I get a notification saying, "Oh, my friend joined Robinhood, and now I have a free stock." So I engage again. I get the dopamine for like, "Oh, I engaged. I got you know, this free stock, and I'm more likely to invite more people, and the viral loop continues." So that's the idea of a viral loop. And you know, I think the other thing that this is Hotel Tonight, and they use our links to do this, but this idea that like they give people things, but when they open the app for the first time, the first thing they see is the referral from their friend. So the more personalized you make the referral page, the more likely someone is to actually, you know, engage and like actually do something because they see it's something from their friend. And so personalization does well. And then of course, you know, the idea that if you make the experience, you auto log them in and things like that, all of that helps with the experience. So, you know, when you think about referrals, which I think when you think about virality, one of the biggest drivers of virality is referrals, but I have two others that you might have not heard about. But for virality specifically and referrals, you know, giving incentives makes a lot of sense. But if you can give them something that's not a discount, but actually something, they're way more likely to share. You know, discounts, a lot of people don't care that much about discounts and not enough to invite others. And you already ask them to pay. And some people, it works in some cases, but it works much better if you give them something, right? So the reason the Dropbox referral still works today is because every time you invite someone, you actually get free storage. It's actually something that you keep getting. You know, you might see things where if you invite 5 people, you get an iPad or things like that. Like those are the type of things that work much better. And I think too many people think it's so much easier and less costly to do a discount and give you a discount code, and then they wonder why the referral doesn't work that well. Two-sided are the best, and there's a reason for that. You know, a lot of like, the best book I read on virality is Contagious by Jonah Berger. and he looked a lot of human psychology, and we really like helping other people, and we feel important when we help other people. So sometimes if you feel you can give someone something, special, you're more likely to share when it's all about them and giving something cool to them than you're actually getting something just for yourself. So, an example of that is, many of you might know this app called The League that was started by one of my classmates, and she built a really cool referral system in the beginning where every time you invited people, you would get higher up in the wait list. So they had the wait list, and other people have done this, and I think it's a very interesting thing, a way of doing referrals. But what was even more interesting is that once you actually get in, you get this VIP invite, and you can only give it to one person or two people, and you feel special because you can give them access to this like exclusive club. And people are selling them on eBay. So this idea that you can actually give something that's special to a friend, everyone was using those and giving them to people, and they were giving them to people that were very likely to use it. They weren't just inviting to get a discount, right? So the type of people you would get from a promotion like that is also much higher quality. And then, appealing to their ego. So let's talk about ego, which is honestly, I think like one of the things that people probably don't talk enough in marketing is one of the best way to market to people is appealing to their ego. People are very likely to share things that appeal to their ego. And if you think about Instagram and how it's all about ego, right? People share pictures that make themselves look good. They have these beautiful filters, so you look even better than you do in real life. And people share because it makes them feel good and it appeals to an image of himself. And this is something my co-founder shares very few things, but he shares, he thinks of himself as a carpenter, and he built this amazing table for us. I mean, he is very good with wood. But this idea that like he will only share things that like fit with his image. And I'm sure many of you have seen these things where like you take a test, and this is me taking, seeing the old CEO of a company I used to work for before business school, and he had like some score and he did really well. And I was like, oh, I took it and then I beat him. So then like I posted it because I was like, well, I'm better than him. And then someone from high school that I hadn't talked to in 15 years went and took it. And like, this was the first message to me in 15 years was that he got a better score than me at this thing, right? So, and he shared it with other people. So like this idea that you want to be perceived as someone who's good at something can be a really very big driver of virality and of marketing in general, right? When we think about enterprise marketing, many times you invite people to speak to things, you make them feel important, and that can help you build a relationship with them and build a lot of goodwill in the long term. And then the last driver of virality, obviously the last driver that I'm gonna talk about, but I think there's many others, is this idea of emotion. And emotion is actually one of the biggest drivers of virality that people don't think about. And Jonah, who wrote Contagious, who's a professor at UPenn, actually put people in MRI machines and tried to figure out, what are the emotions that's driving them to actually click on things and share things. And, positive emotions make people share. They're more likely to share if they got a positive emotion. But funny enough, negative emotions drive a lot more clicks. I think that's a really interesting one. And he found that there's 7 arousing emotions that drive virality. And those emotions are awe. And this is an example of like an amazing video that like really got me on. I was sharing it with people, and I was like, the way this company makes money, they make this really good video, they produce awe, and then everyone shares them. And then they have ads in them, right? So anger, there was something about Trump, and like, I really clicked in anger, and I realized then that it said something really funny, and then like it was a positive emotion, so I shared. So it was a very clever way of getting anger to click, but positive emotion after you click to actually get it to share. Anxiety and fear, I'm sure all of you have clicked on one of these things at some point. What are like, things that are you spending too much on things? Are you missing out on things? And then joy, it's a very good one. Lust, retargeting, the entire retargeting business is built on lust. You want something and they show it to you enough until you like cave in and get it. And this is me being retargeted by a Chinese site, and then I bought the dress in the middle after they showed it to me 20 times. And surprise, you know, I don't run a lot. Then when I ran and posted on Facebook, I got a bunch of engagement for a post that just showed my 1 mile run. It wasn't because they thought I was great at running. It was because they were so surprised that I was running. But in general, you know, I think the Robinhood example is a great example of how they use surprise. You're curious, you're surprised about the stock you got, you're more likely to share again. And, you know, if you want to test this, I spent $50 on Facebook and I ran different campaigns with the same article about cats, but I coded things very differently. You know, for example, I showed an example that said cats are better than dogs, and then you know, I tried to do surprise. And then this was for cat owners, and I was like 83 reasons why you should not get the cat, scientifically proven. That one had the highest click rate by far. If you look, it's almost more than double the one where like cats are the best pet, because I drove anger in cat owners, and people are I think anger does work. Any questions here? We're like running out of time, so.
Yeah, maybe we'll just do one or two. I think actually from this section, did you ever try to incentivize referrals or reward loyal users for talking about branch?
Yeah, we did. It's very hard in enterprise. It's very different. I think when you are an enterprise product, people think about, you know, their professional lives, they think very differently. They think about their personal life. We actually found that people do it without us asking for it. And because it's something that they feel like if we pay them, because it's like something that if you're an enterprise company costs a lot of money, it's just like almost like a weird incentive. It's almost like we're saying that we need them to share, versus if they're a good product, they'll share anyway. We did a thing where we incentivized them to write things on G2 Crowd, for example, and we sent hoodies. And that didn't matter what star rating they gave. As long as they wrote a review, it could have been 1 star or 5 star, we send them a hoodie. But it was like a lot. I mean, we got like 80 reviews or something just for a hoodie. So things work. But we didn't give them a discount to branch. We gave them a hoodie. So.
Nice. Maybe we should go through the last section so we don't run out of time for you.
I actually have 2 more things. I think this is too long. So, okay, the other one that we did at branch a lot is this idea of community and events. We have this giant community. I think it's about 30,000 people. We do, these are all the places where we've done events. So a lot of meetups all over the world. Many of them we do once a month, some once a quarter, some once every 6 months. But what did we do during this, right? So during this COVID, like we had to bring everything online, and we started doing our meetups online at different hours. And we found, you know, our last meetup had, I think, almost 700 registrants, and that was super interesting to us. We've never had, or maybe we have 1 or 2 times, but in general, we don't get as many registrants. So how can we bring people and make them like gel together? You know, we started these roundtables that are smaller groups where we moderate and they just share about learnings, and that has been super interesting. I think some learnings, you know, from bringing things online is participants enjoying human connection more than ever. And if you have customers, if you can bring them together and get them to connect with each other, it's really good. And they're also looking for learning. So, but you should think about those two as very different. Type of events we have that are learning based are very different than the type of events that are community based, and they're smaller. And especially if you're a B2B company, I think it makes a lot of sense to facilitate those. Physical events cannot be exchanged, and you have to think about, you know, not sending too many invites and things like that. Not everyone knows how to Zoom. I think that has been a thing that I play Settlers of Catan with my college friends this weekend online, and I realized that they didn't know how to Zoom. So the first 10 minutes was like teaching them how to Zoom. So definitely don't expect that everyone, if you might be living on it, doesn't mean that everyone does. But I think the really great thing about doing events online is that you can do a lot more. It's lower investment. There's much faster follow-up, and this is the time to try it out because people are really searching for that. And the last two sections, I'll go pretty fast through that, and then let's go to questions. I think the other really, so this is all about customer acquisition, right? But the really interesting thing is all the roundtables I've been in, everything I talk about, even the way we think about branch, we are now really focusing on relationship building. So while the past it was all about growth and acquiring, we're still focusing on that. But this is the time to make sure you build relationships and you maintain your customers. And we're seeing this with B2B companies, but also B2C companies. They're focusing a lot more on retention. And some ways to build those relationships is being a lot more creative, being active. This is a zoo that obviously couldn't get their customers, couldn't allow them in, but they started following a penguin that walks around, and they started getting so many new followers, but also stronger relationships with their existing. This is, a really weird, in my morning stand-ups, I started doing weird things. And this was, out of everything we post on social media last week, this was the most engaging thing. I had very thoughtful articles, but us eating oranges in our stand-up did better. So I think, people are looking for entertainment, and sometimes building those relationships might mean, being lighter, doing things that maybe you would have never done as a brand or as a company before. Loyalty services, thinking about what you can do for users now. And there's actually some examples of big companies trying to, give people extended loyalty services and things like that. But think about, at the end of the day, this is United changing their app, but at the end of the day, think about your customers and how can you be there for them. And I don't just mean sending them an email saying, I'm here for you, will you buy my product? I mean actually being there for them. What do they need and what can you give them during this time? In Branch's case, the roundtables are a way that we bring our customers together, and we don't talk about Branch. We just let them talk about their problems because they might not know peers in their industry. So by bringing them together, they get value by just talking about all their challenges during this time and what they're doing. We try to show trends. We try to just actually be helpful. And I think that's very important as you think about, the next few months. And the last one, fixing leaks, refocusing on meeting ROI. This is just one example of a company that started using compared Branch to someone else in terms of link opens. So, here, if you look at the click to open ratio, it's the only thing you should look at. It's by just improving their links, they almost doubled their click to open rate, right? So they were losing all those customers who were clicking on links, and those links never took them to content. And this is an example. There might be other leaks. There might be other things that are broken. This is the one that I have visibility into. But thinking about, you're looking at your flows and figuring out where you might be dropping people because of a technology reason, because of a silly reason, and how can you make sure that you fix those leaky buckets. This is some guy, this is older, but we use this example a lot, but this is an investor who stopped going to Wall Street Journal because Wall Street Journal kept asking him to log in over and over again. And, we have the CTO of Walgreens telling him that Branch can help, and we actually help them with this. But this is just an example of someone who didn't get a good user experience, who actually was thinking about losing the app. And there might be things that you might find that might be different. Maybe maybe you're not even a mobile app, and maybe this is not relevant, but there probably are things and leaks in your funnel that this is the time to take the time and fill them, because cash is king and you probably are spending less. So making sure we make the most out of the money. So, before we move into questions, I want to make sure I have time to answer your questions. I'll end with this quote. Let's trust in the inexpressive benevolence of the creative impulse during hard times. I think this is the time when I challenge each of you to think about ways that you can be creative and adapt to the shift in customer behavior. And be creative with your marketing spend, with your effort to actually, you know, you don't need that much money to actually market and do a good job with that. So, okay, now I'll go back to questions.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Mada. What great content, and in this time for sure, like really figuring out your organic marketing and organic growth, and making your customers really happy and being there in an authentic way. Such an important message. I think I can suggest a couple questions. How long do we have? Are we good until 5:30?
Yeah, we're good until 5:30.
Okay. So one of the questions that came up in a couple different ways is about measuring conversion from content pieces or measuring success. And were there any tactical content downloads, CTAs? So any kind of probably messaging.
Yeah, we tried a bunch. I mean, you know, we had like request a demo. I think it just depends on you. You know, the thing we've seen, and I don't think I have a slide on this, but the thing we've seen with our banners when customers use them, we had 3 buckets. We had the people who don't customize the banner at all. They just put the banner on and they just leave it there. And it's always the same. And then we have people who make some customizations. And then we have people who customize a lot. They run a lot of A/B tests. They try different words. And the view to install ratio of the people who customize a lot versus the people who don't customize at all is 5x. Like it goes from 1.1% to 5.7%, which is like crazy, right? Like by just testing the words when you put the banner, when you see it, you can get 5 times. And this was across a lot of apps. This was not just one app. I think, you know, hopefully that inspires you to test more. So I can't tell you what the right CTA is for you. I think I don't know, honestly. I think it's very different, and it's very different by user, by how engaged they are. If you're too pushy and you show someone who just landed on your website a giant banner, it's kind of like dating. It's like you're pushing them off and they might never come back. So you have to like go slow and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. How about measuring the success for the content itself? If you create content, what does success mean and how do you measure that?
I think it depends on what you're trying to do. In Branch's case, in the early days, we were trying to get integration. So we would actually measure, we had like tracking, and we would measure how many people integrate in their app where their first touch was a blog post. So that's what we looked at. And now we look at something very different. We look at dollars. So we look how much pipeline was generated where the first touch was a blog post.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so measuring the actual dollars. So one other question that came up is, do you have recommendations on hosting your blog on Medium versus LinkedIn versus your own website?
Yes, I do. I think someone else messaged it here, but that's definitely the right answer, your website. Mm-hmm. I do something very interesting while I post on my website, and then I also post it on LinkedIn, and then I also post it on Medium, and then I link back to the website to make sure that the website is like the source of truth. Mm-hmm. I will tell you that, you know, just the website does a lot better, and every single piece of content I have on my website increases my overall website. So then not just my blog, but actually other things like our resources, branch.io, gets a much higher SEO rating because of the content. And if you put your content, your blog on Medium, your website won't like get as much from that. So, but you can, you know, you can use something like we use WordPress for it. It doesn't have to be, yeah, I know Medium lets you like put in your own domain, but I don't know how that works from an SEO perspective, honestly. I think just talking to an SEO consultant, we never had to worry because we had our own website by the time they were even allowed to do that.
One other interesting question is negative emotions might drive click rate, like anger, but will it decrease willingness to convert?
Yeah, most likely. It just depends what you're trying to do. If you're like trying to get clicks, I've never done anything anger based, because anger is a very short-term thing. It definitely drives clicks. I wouldn't use it as part of your brand unless what you're trying to get is clicks and you get like, you know, ad revenue, because if you're a website that makes money from content and clicks, Anchor might work for you, but outside of that, I think it's just something interesting to know, but I wouldn't use it as part of your brand.
Mm-hmm. Do you think SEO works for any kind of business, or is it better for tech and apps?
I think it's any kind of business, honestly. I really do. I don't think it's, I mean, this is focused on apps and tech just because it's what I usually talk about and who our customers are. I think it works for any kind of business. I think even for the local shop, flower store, it probably works if they did a better job about it. I'm trying to buy cakes. I don't know where. Like any kind of business, in my opinion, if you can do a good job. And I think many companies don't really, they just have a website and they try to optimize things, and it's very hard to optimize, and they don't really think about how powerful content can be in helping with SEO. And I'll give you an example. I'm in a marketing leader group, and I remember Google changed their ranking. And I was sitting in that group and everyone was like, oh my God, I just had a drop of 20% of my organic traffic. And this other guy's like, 30% for me, what happened? And I was like, shit, what happened? And I looked at our traffic and our traffic had gone up, because the way we've done SEO is not like by gimmicks and like trying little things. We just wrote good content. And if you write good content, Google won't penalize you for that.
Mm-hmm. One other question was, how frequently did you release content early on?
Like twice a week.
Twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
Was there any method behind that, or that's just what you naturally did? Because I'm sure part of the question is like, you're tiny, like how do you allocate resources?
I mean, go on our blog and figure out how many blog posts our CEO has written, who, by the way, also run products and does all these other things. I think, he just spends 2 or 3 hours every weekend and he would write 1 or 2 posts. And I agree with you on that. I think it's hard. And I mean, very early, maybe we didn't do twice a week. Maybe we did once every 2 weeks or something. So I don't think we've ever done less than 1 every 2 weeks, even in the early days.
Got it. Cool. Mada, do you want to see if there's any last question you want to answer, if you have time for 1 more or 2 more?
How do we create smart banners? Okay, that's super simple. Maybe that's from earlier, but you can just use our Journeys product, and it's really easy to use.
It's free, right?
It's free if you're under 10,000 MAUs, and then it's like $60 a month. So unless you're like an enterprise company, in that case, we'll talk. But otherwise, it's pretty cheap. What is competitor urgency and how is it measured? Is it automatic? No, I think this is something that we came up with. There were things that we were trying to get over our competitors in certain areas of our product. So it was different. Mm-hmm. It wasn't an SEM rush. We came up with it. We came up with a bunch of stuff. So you have to figure out what works for you, but you don't have to follow our model, or you just come up with what's most important to you and your market, right? In our case, we were trying to win with this new product over our competition. So this was very important. I will tell you that when we are redoing this again, this was, I think, from 9 months ago, we won't have competitor urgency probably in our new one. But we're doing it again because search patterns have changed so much, and we think there's opportunity to write about other things.
Got it.
How to build a strong presence on social media for my business? Just post a lot. I know it's weird, but someone we hired a branch is very active on Twitter, and I had never known people who are so active. He has a lot of followers, but he tweets 20 times a day. I don't tweet 20 times a day, but I post pretty much one. So my audience is LinkedIn, and I know a lot about LinkedIn. I'm not very good at Twitter and others, but I'm very engaged on LinkedIn, and I have usually hundreds of likes on my posts, and I post once a day.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. I think we should probably call it, unless you want to keep answering, but I want to respect your time. I think you have another meeting, right? Yeah,
I have another meeting in a minute or two. Well, I just want to say that this was so great. And I'm so grateful for everyone. I'm going to take a screenshot of this so I remember this forever. Honestly, if you guys have other questions, I'm madabranch.io. And thank you so much for having me. And I hope this was helpful. I try to go in depth and tactical instead of giving fluffy advice. So I hope
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I mean, you've done this many times for our portfolio and for.
But never with slides. See, in virtual, I prepared more for the virtual one.
Yeah, you've never had slides. It's so funny, right? Yeah, things are so different. But you know, we really, really value you and value all the work you've done and all the help you've given to the community of founders. So thank you so much for doing this today. And,
you guys supported us so much during our early days, and even now, I mean, it's been an honor to be part of your community.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much, Mada, and go enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you at another virtual event.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
And thanks to everybody else for attending. We will see you again at the next speaker series talk, which is going to be coming up in the next couple weeks. So take a look at pair.vc/speakers to see what is coming up. Thanks, everybody, and good night.